And then I want to show you kind of like maybe a back test so we can kind of see two things, right? We'll look at two just so you have an idea of how it works. So we saw this huge move right here, right? Like this, relatively speaking, it was a really nice move. So I want to show you kind of like what it looks like on back testing, just so you can see the conditions conducive monitor react. And then I'm going to show you on scalping timeframes, like what the difference is. And then later, I think you'll be able to decide, am I a guy that wants to play this game on smaller timeframes, or for my lifestyle, do I just mostly want to be interested in it on, larger timeframes, like this one, 24-minute to the 1 week. So the interesting thing is, even on the 5-minute, this was looking pretty bearish. So we have quite a few bars to work through real quick. And there's video on this, so I won't spend too much time on it because I have a couple videos that I can refer you to where I go through it in more detail. But volatility monitor, this is literally just, if I were to look at each time frame, this is just showing which ones are operating below red clouds. And these green ones are just showing me which ones are operating above green clouds. So as an asset, and we've been playing with this particular asset for like the past hour, we saw how bullish it went in the big picture, right? From 2023, I think it was, right? Like earlier or at the end of this past year, when everything kind of went bullish. That's why all of these bigger time frames are actually still operating above the volatility cloud. But it is showing that right now we're in a period of probably bearish volatility on these time frames. We're just looking at the 5-minute. This thing is beautiful because it tells us what's going on all these different time frames. So in a lot of time frames, and again, this is back testing. So this is what it looked like on the 7th of June at 9:40 in the morning. So I was like, that's today at 9:40 in the morning. So we're back testing the 5-minute. But this shows you what it looked like, right? How bearish it was. This linear regression in the 24-minute was bearish. It did have a little bit of a bullish break, saying like it could be breaking bullish, but overall pretty bearish in time frames up to the 6-hour. And it's also saying in the bigger picture, the much bigger picture, the multi-day analysis and the weekly analysis aggregate, all in all, this thing has been going up. So you may want to zoom out, if you're thinking about doing something with spot positions or larger positions or a move that you're wanting to evaluate over what's been happening for the past few weeks. That's where the bottom data would come into play. But for today's move that we just saw when it dropped, let's see what happened. It may have been because ETH dropped or some correlated project dropped, because a lot of them did drop. But the cool thing is you can see literally how bearish the data is getting, even on these time frames. And right now, the only thing that's not showing up are the linear regression bearish channel breaks just yet. They seem to be blank, which means bearish in slope, but not intensifying yet. Going back to that, so this is volatility monitor. These are breakout bars, right? Orange, all of these are blue. So big red circles are blue breakout bars, like this one. And big green circles are orange breakout bars, like this one. Blue just means 85% bearish confluence. So statistically, some really strong down pressure on that 1 5-minute bar, right? So I wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to pressure on tiny bars unless you're playing super intense leverage on small time frames, which is a good way to get wrecked, but some people do it.
It's a heart attack waiting to happen.
Yeah, and it is, right? It's super stressful. And in this case, it's orange, which means 85% bullish confluence on that particular bar. It is the most emotional indicator that I use, and it's just measuring per bar. When it's more powerful is when it's coming up on larger bars, right? Like the 1 day, the 12-day. It's like saying traders watching the 6-hour are kind of bearish right now. Traders watching the 12-hour and bigger time frames are kind of bearish right now. traders watching the 1 day are kind of pessimistic, bearish, and selling more than selling is more likely than normal right now. And then you could kind of look at it the same way on these others, right? This is movement monitor. So this is when movement monitors are orange. It is a green big circle. When they are blue, it is a big red circle. So right now, we're actually seeing short-term price action kind of be bearish and kind of collide against bigger picture price action. So we could call that a correction. If we were watching it, we could see it as somewhat of a correction, or I would say more of a correction than a consolidation. A consolidation would be like a lot of this being mixed and nobody knows what to do, and it usually means the price action is just doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
When it's all red in these time frames, it usually means that we've been probably going down for a bit over these larger time frames, right? Especially when the movement monitors are already all blue up into the 6 hour and 12 hour. It didn't just start right here. Like, it's been turning on larger time frames for a while. But for our purposes, we're just looking for a move here and to see how this particular one reacts. So that's movement monitor. I think it touched on linear regression, right? This is just the slope of the channel. And then this is if it's intensifying, or maybe it's breaking to be a little more bullish again, and maybe it's kind of flattening out. Trend scanner is this little box that shows up saying there has been no opposing volatility. So it's just literally saying that this has all been bearish and there has not been any yellow or orange candles, which are the 75 and 85% bullish confluent conditions, right? So it's saying, again, these are just 5-minute candles, but the logic is the same. So the past 5 candles only, there has been no bullish closings, right? None of the oranges or yellows. And then back here, when it was a green box, the last green box, it was just saying, this is the last time that we had 5 bullish candles in a row and there were no blue bars, right? So the moment that a blue bar showed up and things changed, or the movement monitor changed, then the green box went away. And so that's all that is. But it helps you find clean trends. So if you're going to short something, it's nice to have all of these working in your favor, saying, relatively speaking, bullish volatility has been minimal. And if some of these are missing, it's because there's been a bit of mixed volatility, right? It has not been conditions for a clean trend in this time frame or that time frame or that time frame. And so you'll see these be empty, and that just is less favorable for somebody who's looking to short. So right now, this looks kind of great for a person to short. Now we're seeing an expansion monitor show up on the 6-hour and the 24-minute. We're seeing full steam ahead breakout bars to the downside right here at $41.32, full blast breakout bars. We are operating in bearish conditions from a underneath the red cloud, possible trend change, even if it's just for the short term, up into the 12-hour. So if we're looking at the 5-minute, we could say that's supporting our success. So we only have one thing supporting our failure if we're considering shorting. And that's this, like, why did this 24-minute, have a bullish break? So we would investigate that. And then if these are empty, that just means these are bearish, but they're not intensifying just yet. So something that would further support our success if we were shorting would be if this next time frame, the next biggest time frame, right? This is smallest. So the next largest time frame, or the next one in order from least to greatest, showed a small red dot. That would say, oh, this is intensifying in trend. If this went away or turned red, that would be great. And we'll probably see it happen here in a second. But expansion monitors are one of my favorite things to look for potential moves to occur. So already right here, if a person is not trying to do, anything crazy, they could literally do something like this. That would be their most conservative trade. And it's the 5-minute. So I would say I probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably shoot for this. And that would be what I would base my logic on. I'd say if this is all right, and I have reason to believe that these pretty big time frame breakout bars are saying we're going down, or we could, and these movement monitors are all blue, not green, not red. which is loose bearish, but blue, which is deep bearish, conditions conducive to a short by definition of the movement monitor, with all those things we talked about, right? Sensitive trend, volume, all those things. I don't have to think about it now because I'm just seeing this. And then linear regression, overall, everything's in a bearish channel for all these time frames for a pretty long period of time, right? Like this one alone is 400 hours, or I'm sorry, 200 hours. This one is even longer. This is 600 hours of bearish sloping price action. That's a long time, so that's supporting my success. And then overall, pretty clean trend scanners in these time frames, which volatility can still be strong, which is why high leverage is less favorable. But it's like saying overall, you got a pretty clean, situation for a short. And then now, even better for me, the expansion monitors are starting to ping in small time frames, which affect like closer to real-time movement, and also in some decent sized time frames like this, that even over the course of maybe 6 hours or could go into a full day, we could see some strong expansion to the downside. So this is all of a sudden immediately decent conditions for a short. I'm willing to lose, let's just say 2x leverage, right? I'm willing to lose whatever that is, 3.3%, so that I can make 18%. Beautiful, non-greedy, low leverage, easy, in my opinion, short. All these things make sense. These green ones are technically supporting my failure, but until these start to turn green, this is pretty decent conditions. So I could literally enter there. And then this, by the time it gets here, I'm even more excited, because the 5-minute is now got potential for expansion. I have no 5-minute data over there on the conditions conducive monitor just yet, but I just want to show you, like, that is how technically you could kind of go into this. And so you see where my trade was kind of set up. There was a lot of logic for it. And so it expanded much further. This is where a person could have take profits put in already, or they could be watching it, take profits manually. They could do multiple take profit zones, but it ended up being here with just 2x leverage, 18%. Some of your money ended up being, 16% times 2, so 32%. The absolute low, which nobody probably would nail, was 17.57. So these are the two lines of greed prevention, right? Right here, pretty much, and right here. That would be
So
where
right there, you would have got stopped out when that bar dropped below it, right? That it would have been it would kick you out.
Which one? No,
Where
because
the
this is the short. So the only way I'm going to get stopped out would be if price
if it goes
action.
up,
Yep. So if it exceeds this line, I would get stopped out.
it's
But
stopped out.
you can see how safe I was, right? Like just because
Yeah.
I wasn't greedy and I just did 2x leverage, and somehow it magically turned into 18% and 30% that quickly. That's, regardless of the amount of money that it was. There are some things people would want to consider with like limitations, but at 2x leverage, usually the number of, what you can go into the trade with is high. Like, I mean, it's really high in most cases. So yeah, so
So
that's a great example of how it works. And then by the time these yellows start pinging, I'm glad these showed up. This just shows that we're overextended in within the realm of shorting, right? So this kind of says, hey, if you thought you were going to jump in and short because all this is red, just be really careful, because every single time frame is saying it's overextended. So all you have to do is ask yourself, does it mean it's overextended to the downside and I shouldn't short it, or does it mean the upside? This is a really easy one to read. It's overextended to the downside.
the
But
downside.
if you ever had a doubt, you pull up these Bollinger Bands, just the ones that I have, plugged in, and generally speaking, you just say, oh, it's close to the green. So it's just saying like somewhere in here, up pressure is probably likely to happen. If it was showing up overextended here, then all of these would probably be green. These same yellow bars, these same yellow circles would show up, but you'd see it much closer to the red up here. And you'd say, oh, okay. So maybe I
You still
shouldn't
get
long.
You still got the red dots right above you there, the four red dots.
Yep, because it's just
Yeah.
still in the 5 minute, it's still conditions conducive to expansion.
What do we call those dots?
Expansion dots.
Those are the expansion dots. Okay.
It's what's cool is
The EM.
they all show up here now, which is cool. The
Okay.
5 minute, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the 5 minute. What's exciting is more so when they start filling in on these larger time frames. The 5 minute works, right? Like it worked here and showed up here, I guess, which was what right here. Yeah, I was already kind of too late on the relative to the
Yeah.
5 minute, but it was showing up on the 24 minute and the 6 hour way back here, which is what we were paying attention to. And so that was the time to jump into a trade and just wait for the required patience. Even just this is one or 2 hours of patience, but it required a little patience. And then we got an amazing dump and we had a 30% gain, 15 and 30% or 18 and 30%. And then this is just saying, don't short it now. You're probably too late, like use caution.
Yeah.
Even if it is going to keep going down, short it here or short it here, right? And use these calculators, short it just like that, short it just like that. But use that data to make sure that you do it. It may not make it up to here again because it's a bit bearish. So if I wonder where is it going to hit my long, or excuse me, my short entry, it'd be something like this one, or I'd look around here, and I would need these dots, to still be showing me good things. And so as we kind of finish out the back testing, now it's kind of flatlining. You can see those yellows disappearing, and you see it's not as crazy red as it was. The
Yeah.
expansion, the short-term expansion monitors have kind of like subsided, gone away. The movement monitors are no longer blue. Now they are just red, which is still loose bearish, but not trade conditions anymore. And then that's where we're at, right? We had this big dump and then a retrace and a period of consolidation. And we may have another big dump. So it's just on to the next trade, But hopefully that gives you a nice rundown of what all this does and how to use it collectively. And then there's a lot more recorded content for breaking down the conditions conducive monitor even further for you. I think I gave you like the proper summary, but there's more content on it. So if you just want to take in more and more on how to use it and how to look for it, you definitely can. The thing I want people
Yeah.
to know is the Connect 4 is just a name. So there is no, oh, look, it has 4 dots. I'm going to short.
Yeah.
Like
I win.
there is no logic to just because I see a 4 somewhere, I'm going to short. That has nothing to do with anything.